A 71-year-old fisherman from Brazil named João Pereira de Souza has been getting visits from a very special friend for the last 4 years. Once you find out who João's friend is and why he's so important, you'll understand just how unique of a bond they have. When an emotional bond forms between two humans, both people benefit. Sometimes, though, a special connection between an animal and a human occurs, and it's equally as important. Just ask this Brazilian fisherman named João Pereira de Souza. For the last 4 years, he's been getting visits from a very unique friend, but the reason behind the friendship makes his story even more amazing. 71-year-old João has lived on the Brazilian island of Ilha Grande his entire life, and he makes his living as a part-time fisherman. In 2011, while he was out at sea, he made an incredibly upsetting discovery on a large rock protruding out of the water near his boat. There, sprawled out on the jagged surface of the rock, was a young Magellanic penguin who was covered in oil from head to toe and dying of starvation. There was no way João could leave the penguin behind to die. He knew he had to do something. João immediately brought the penguin, whom he named Dindim, aboard his fishing vessel and took him back to his home. The penguin was struggling to breathe through the oil that was caked onto his beak. João took him into his kitchen and began to clean him. It took over a week for João to completely remove the oil off of Dindim's body. During that time, João fed him a steady diet of fish, and the little animal slowly regained his strength. Eventually, it was time for João to set Dindim free again. He knew that the incident had brought them close together, but he had to let his new friend return to the ocean where he belonged. However, João had no idea what was in store for him the following year. After João released Dindim back into the ocean, he was sure that their paths would never cross again. They shared a very emotional week together, but it was now over, and João needed to move on. A few months later, though, while he was readying his boat for departure, he saw something that made his heart melt. It was Dindim. The penguin had actually returned to the island to visit his human friend. He instantly recognized João and returned home with him. It was as if no time at all had passed. João immediately treated his old friend to a delicious fish dinner to celebrate. Dindim spent the next several months at João's home in Ilha Grande. He would join him on his fishing boat almost every day. The connection they had formed was astounding. It was unlike any relationship João ever had. Dindim knew how vital a role João played in his survival, and he wanted to make sure João knew it. Dindim eventually returned to the ocean once again, but he has visited the Brazilian island every year since 2012 to spend time with the fisherman who saved his life. He apparently journeys over 5,000 miles every time. He spends 8 months out of the year with João and the rest of the time breeding off the coast of Argentina and Chile. João even introduced his penguin pal to his grandchildren. João and Dindim developed a very special bond that will most likely last the rest of their lives. João sees Dindim as an equal, and he knows that the penguin reciprocates the feeling. João never thought that a penguin could bring his life new meaning, but he's thankful every day that Dindim did.